this is going to be a little new and different. Hopefully this will work. We'll see. These are all the roadster bearing spacers. I had to cut the outside down because the company bid them really cheap. I thought, oh man, that's awesome. But they bid it assuming that I didn't need the outside cut, so they just left it at the pipe dimension. That was annoying. And I ended up taking almost half of them back, a third of them back at least, because the ID had a problem with it as well, where they didn't completely cut it. I was afraid that would leave a weak spot, so I told them to take it back. So anyway, I'm having to rework these things to get them to work. So I did the rough cut on the outside to get it close. I still have to polish it, but since I need to grab the outside diameter, I'm not polishing it yet. So, but I basically have to go through and figure out how to get the ID, because they're all anywhere from 2 to 5 thousandths off. I need to go through and get those all accurate. So what I'm working on here is I have an adjustable ream that will go up to that size. Now on this is a boring bar holder here, okay, and the battery's about dead. It turns out that shaft is like 3/4 or something like that. There's an adapter sleeve in there. I normally have my 1-inch boring bar in there, but I took it out for this. So I've got that clamped in tight in here, and then I have an adapter in here. I just put that in. Basically what I did was I clamped the jaws on this part of the ream here, because that's a machined part. It's the jaws fit right in between the blades. It lined up. So then basically what I did is I tweaked everything else and let it kind of float around until I got it to where this is going straight in and out. It's centered front to back, up and down, everything like that. So I should be able to turn the lathe on and run this ream in and clearance that hole and do it under power instead of having to try to do all this stuff by hand. So we'll see. Let me change out the battery, and it's going to take a few passes and cuts to get the ream set. But once the ream is set, I should be able to just change out each one, boom, ream it, and the inside diameter should be perfect. Basically, in order to set the adjustable ream here, okay, it's getting pretty darn close now, okay, and it looks like they're on a slight taper. So since that seems to be pretty tight, I'm gonna make a cut in there and see where we're sitting. I'll cut the adapter with the spacer with the ream, and then measure that, as opposed to trying to measure the cutter. I want to see what the finish is. To adjust it, basically what I did was I took one of the spacers on here and I loosened this side up, because there's a ramp cut in for each of the blades, and then tightened this side down, and it pushes the blades this way, and when that does, it expands the blades. So we should be pretty close. Let's reposition and give it a try. All right, I'm only going to run this at 70 RPMs. Wow, that's some light cutting oil. It's called BioTap. I'm just gonna goop a bunch on there because that's not spinning. I don't have to worry about it slinging off too much. So let's see. Hopefully I won't have to sacrifice too many of these to get it accurate. Basically, the reason I would have to sacrifice it is if I cut too much. So let me measure that and see. All right, well, one basically wasted. See how loose that is? I should have started a whole lot smaller and worked up from there. I'm looking for 1.179, and when I measured it, it was actually like 1.19 something. So I will definitely make that cutter a good bit smaller and try to sneak up on it for the next one. So this is why I have to measure the cutter's blade flex in here. I'm assuming is what's making it cut so big. Okay, this is a factory one, which just fits over the spindle. Okay, but as you can see, I'm loose all the way up, even to where the max, you know, it's looser here, so there seems to be a slight bit of taper. It's a Chinese ream, maybe that's part of the grief, I don't know. So I was thinking, oh, I could just go ahead and resize these to this one, you know, just the cutters to touch this, but the cutter's already way too small. So basically I have to turn the cutters way down, sneak up on it because it's blade flex or something. I don't know. One of those annoying frustrations with machine work. Just real quick to answer the question why I'm using a ream, trying to use the ream instead of a boring bar. Okay, because the center holes, because the outside was pipe, and I found a variance in the center hole. It's out of round by a thou or two. So what happens is that, you know, I grabbed it by the inside to cut the outer bore, cut the OD. Okay, in doing that, then that put the outside slightly non-concentric to the inside. Okay, now the concentricity really isn't that critical, but I do want the center round, and if I just cut it with a boring bar, this thing will probably be going around in the chuck like this a little bit, and the boring bar will just create an oval hole, whereas the ream will come in here and push and float around slightly and give me a round hole, hopefully. That's the thought, at least. So we'll chuck up another one and see about adjusting those cutter blades a lot smaller. Hopefully that'll stay focused there. So to adjust these things, basically to loosen up whichever direction you want to go. I want to go that way, so I'm going to back them off. Sometimes it'll spin well enough you can just move it with your fingers, but now that I got oil on everything, it's a bit more of a challenge. All right. I want it okay. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it on, run it in there, see if it touches. If it cuts, I'm going to make them a little bit smaller. I want to put it in until it doesn't cut, and then I'll open it up from there. Said, but you know, I figured I already wasted one, why not two? I shouldn't have spilled all the tapping fluid all over the chuck like that. That's kind of, anyway. All right, let's all right, here's the real test. Okay, see, that just slides right on there. Man, hopefully I can use these dang things. This could be a huge waste of money because of a miscommunications between the machine shop and Estacada. So a lot of people on Ratson and stuff like that know that I deal with dat rod. This is not his work, okay? His stuff's always come out perfect. So man, That's annoying. Let me make it a little smaller and try it again. Alright, well, not positive I'll post the stuff prior to this. It was a royal pain in the ass trying to get this ream squared away. And it didn't work out, you know, with the clamping it in the jaws on the body of the tool and that stuff the way I thought. It didn't work out very well like that. So I ended up having to tweak up and down, that kind of stuff, have it spinning real slow, sacrificed one, and ran the dot, you know, in and out to where I was in the center of where it rubbed on either side, and then go up and down the same way. And what I'm ending up having to do now is I've got the ream set, and it's bringing them to within a thou of the spec. So it's 2 thou under the same size diameter as the spindle. So anyway, I'm not clamping it in too tight. I don't want to distort that thing into a triangle. I'm not cutting a great deal, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Let's throw a little that's some BioTap or something like that. It's not probably not the best cutting fluid, but what I'm doing here is running it really slow. I've got this just barely tight, just enough to hold that tool holder up. So it holds that in, that way it doesn't drag on the way in. But then what I've done is I loosen it up when I get in here to allow it to float a little bit more and find the center of the bearing adapter. And as it comes back out, I just tap that to let it lift it back up to hold it up. And then I check each one before I take it out. I took it out of gear basically so that I can spin it easily. So I know you're probably looking at just the back of my arm, but part of the reason why I'm leaving it at 2 thousandths under, 1 thousandths below spec, you know, I could tweak the ream just a little bit more. But I'm not going to. The reason being is I can either come back in and hit this with a little emery cloth and smooth it out a little bit more, and I have a thou there to play with, or I just leave the chatter marks, which basically act like serrations, in here. Those will squish more easily, but it'll allow a tighter grip on the spindle. So I think I'm going to just leave them right there. Unless I get some feedback that they're just way too tight. So anyway, that's where it's sitting now. So once I get the rest of these, the centers cut on the rest of these reamed out, then I'll move on to polishing the outside. We'll see how this comes out. I have it slightly off center there to let it focus. So anyway, I built this arbor basically quite a while ago for polishing these. So it's got a little step cut in there so that it'll fit pretty close there, and then I've got the taper set, and so it's nothing fancy. There's no helicoiler in there or anything like that. It's just I think that bar is actually steel, but the cone is aluminum to help grab. So anyway, just snug it up in there. I'm not worried about it being perfectly concentric because I'm not going to be cutting it with anything hard, just sandpaper basically. So got it set at about 1255 RPM. So I'll start with 80 grit, go to 120, and then 240, and it cleans it up certainly nice enough for a grease seal surface. Had the CNC shop done it the way they were supposed to, I wouldn't have to be doing this step. What I'm watching for is you can see grooves in it and that stuff as you're sanding, and as they start to go away, then you can move down to the next. Because when I put the finer grit on it, it shaves off the surface and leaves the next layer of scratches showing. So then you just you try to cut down far enough to get those cut off, and that's pretty smooth, but we'll put the 240 on it here and get it, and it does get hot. It certainly gets hot. So about the time you burn your fingertips, you shut it off. And let me just check it real quick here. It would actually be coming in from the other side, and I could show this later, but okay, there's the seal on the first lip, and it just grabs, and then it actually takes some pressure to go into the second one. So this is about 10 thousandths smaller than I spec'd, but it's still grabbing to the seal and sealing just fine. So call it good. I'll finish polishing these up and hopefully be done with them soon. All right, as you can see, I've got the 3 different rolls of abrasive hanging right there with another 80, because that's the one you go through the fastest. I keep a dedicated pair of scissors sitting here so I can peel off whatever length I want and cut it. Cutting sandpaper tends to kill the scissors, so the $1 pairs from Harbor Freight is really about all you need. So basically I'm just going to run through a few here just to give you an idea of the process. I already showed it up close as to the abrasive and that stuff, but what it's doing. So snug that down, fire it up. Doesn't seem like it takes very long, but all these processes set up on the lathe and all that stuff all add up. Alright, last one I'll video. This is the last of the clean ones. The rest of them have some goobers in the OD, and I'm going to have to give them special attention. Okay, we're down to cutting rotors. So cut a couple of them. I'm getting the dimensions, the DRO dialed in. It's all set up and everything. So brand new rotor. I'm opening up the center hole here. Okay, takes 3 passes or whatever. If I had a bigger, heavier lathe, you know, I could probably do it in 1 or 2. But anyway, I wipe my hand over the back just to make sure that there isn't any bumps or anything like that. Same thing with my finger on the inside. As you saw, I took a brush and cleaned off the chuck jaws. And then I roll it around, make sure I'm getting good contact all the way around as I push it in. All right. I'm running at 300 RPM. You know, I could probably go faster. It's based on the size of that hole. The problem is if this thing's out of balance at all, I start spinning too fast. I don't want, you know, this lightweight lathe. You know, I don't want any slop being induced and getting an oval cut. So that's why part of the reason why I run a little slower. So let's make a couple cuts. And so the first couple of rough cuts, and I just run them in by hand, about 50, 60 thousandths. The last one's probably a little bit more. Hot friggin' chips everywhere. I just do it, feed it in manually, so I don't have to keep changing the speed over here. That way I can leave my final cast speed set up. So I'm going to take it down and leave right at about 10 thou for the final cut. And I'm going to go ahead and power feed it. That way I don't get any cut inconsistencies, because the harder it pushes in, the more that tool's going to deflect. It's going to change the dimension a little bit. So I want to make sure everything's nice and smooth and even. So when I take my measurement, I know exactly how far off I am. If everything's set up right and cutting correctly, I should only be 10 thou off. But the reality of using this lathe is, it seems like I gotta measure every time and change it every time. So let's see here. We are shooting for 2.994, and I've got 2.98. So that puts me at 14 thousandths off. I got 10. I'll go ahead and make that other 10, measure it again, and just have to sneak up on it. This is the tedious part. If I actually knew how to use this darn thing, get it dialed in, figure out what the hell the malfunction is, why I can't get the same reading with the DRO 2 times in a row or whatever. Okay, so I got about 3 thou more. Yep. I've decided too that I'm just going to cut the, well, you know, since I'm having to measure each time, I might as well go start cutting the 45 degree. That way I only have to chuck this thing up once. That would make a bit more sense. So once the tip of the tool clears, then what I'm doing is I'm pulling it out a little bit more and putting a slight bevel on the inside there. To cut off any burr or anything like that that's in there, just to kind of finish up that edge. So hopefully we're right where we need to be. Oh yeah, I like that. Okay. Oh, yeah, you know, I might as well cut the taper. Let me look at the other one and see how much of a taper I need to cut. I think about 100 pounds. All right, a bit of a trick trying to get the camera at an angle in here. Figured I'd show a little bit closer up of cutting the center out of the Altima rotor for the Roadster disc brake kit. So running at 300 RPMs. And I just, like I said in the other one, hand feed the first rough cuts, so that way I don't have to change the feed rate for my final cut. I'm doing about 50,000. About 40. Alright, so the DRO says I'm down around 12,000, so I'm not moving the cross slide at all. I'm just going to make another pass at a really slow feed rate so that this gets rid of any of the tool flex from the heavier cut. Then I can stop it, measure it, see how close I actually am. Make sure there isn't any debris or buildup of cast iron powder and crap like that. They cut like cast iron. I'm assuming they're cast iron. They're not cast steel, but they could be cast steel. I don't know. Let's see here. I'm at 2.979, so I have got another 5, 10. I got about another 15 thousandths. It said it was at 12, so I'm going to take off that 12. And then we'll measure again and make a really light pass for the final cut. Okay, it says I've got about 4 thou left. So. Boring and tedious watching it, it's almost that boring and tedious doing it. Alright, that's where I'm going to cut that little bevel on the backside there. And I'm just looking at it. It's not a critical cut or anything like that, so I'm not too worried about exactly how far it is. I just want to break the edge down so there's no sharp edge or burr. Ooh, looks like it's a hair on the tight side, so let me grab the hub. Oh, I should have had sitting over here, but I've been test fitting everything as I take it out, so... Oh yeah, sweet. Okay, now to cut the bevel in it. So what I'll do is I'll move the DRO up to the next SDM subdata memory point, and I want to back the compound off a little bit so that I can run the carriage back up to 0 where I had it, which was touching the rotor when I did the initial setup. So I'm going to manually feed several, well, I got to manually feed all of them, but I'll have to make several passes here to get it where I want. But basically what I did was, while I was on the other subdata memory point at the final cut there, okay, I came out on the DRO 200 thousandths, because that makes 100 thousandths deep cut, takes 200 off the diameter. Then I pushed the carriage, the cutter, up against the face here. I zeroed out both, I moved it, the SDM to 23, zeroed them both out. So now anytime I come back to 23, I can set the carriage at 0, set the cross slide at 0, and then I can just dial my bevel in with the compound. But since I can't take a full cut, I will have to move the cross slide in a bit, and but I can dial back to 0 anyway. So I can just cut it in by sound and feel, and watch the DRO every time I back it out a little bit until I start getting pretty close. It says I got about 7 thousandths left, so we'll make that my final cut. There we go. Voila. Alright, take a little 80 grit here, just to knock down any fuzzies. And that's it for cutting the center. I'll go put it back in the box. It's ready to go.